current issues such as President Obama, and right now there's a swine flu going around. And another one that's been going on for a while is the California drought. The drought has been going on for the last 5 years, so I'm sure most of you are aware of it. You've probably heard about it on the news or read about it in a local newspaper. This applies to us all because obviously we all live in California, and we all need water to survive. But while you're living in a city, you might not feel that you're really affected by the drought, but you actually are. A lot of farmers are being forced to produce less crops, and cities are taking legal measures to make sure that people are conserving water. So what does this mean for people who live in cities? It means that since there's less food, there might be higher prices on food. You may be have to pay for citations against using illegal water use. And actually, a lot of cities are raising the water bill for people who aren't conserving water. And with the economy in the state it is right now, I don't think you really want to pay extra money for water. So to help out the state with the drought, Californians should conserve water. And I myself have been concerned with the drought for the last year or so. Even as a kid, I always worried about water. One of my biggest fears was that the earth would run out of drinking water, but it's more complex than that. Today I'll give you a background on the California drought, how it affects the state, and some reasons why we should conserve and some techniques on how to conserve. The definition of a drought is a long-term continued dry weather. And just because one location in California is affected by a drought doesn't mean that another location may be affected by it. Mainly because one location may rely on rainfall for water, while another may rely on water that is already in storage. Usually the first to be impacted by a drought are the cities that rely on rainfall for water, because once rainfall stops falling, they're out of water completely. Those who rely on rainfall are ranchers or residents who rely on wells or some kind of water that's unreliable. The longer a drought lasts, the harder the impacts are, because even cities who have backup water and reservoirs, the water level slowly decreases. And but unlike natural disasters such as fires, earthquakes, or floods, droughts give water suppliers a little bit more of a warning so that they can make preparations for it. But it does have economic impacts that could be quite severe, such as loss of dry land cattle range, damage to timber resources, wildfire damage, and declining water-based recreational and tourism activities, which means people aren't going to raise waters. Like I said, the drought has been going on for the last 5 years, and the Department of Water Resources has declared the conditions as severe. Precipitation, which is rain, sleet, or snow, because California always has snow, is below normal for the last 3 years. And major reservoirs are at dangerously low levels. Some reservoirs actually contain water that is less than half of their capacity. That's how low the water is. In 2007, there was a new record for a single dry year in Southern California. And because of these dry conditions, we had massive wildfires in 2003, 2007, and 2008. If you guys remember the wildfires we had in Yorba Linda a few months ago, that wasn't a coincidence. According to an article in CQ Researcher, farmers have been hit particularly hard. In February, the State Water Project stopped sending water deliveries from Sacramento River Delta to cities in Southern California. The federal also cut water deliveries to the San Joaquin Valley by 75%. Farmers have really been forced to leave their fields fallow, which means that they're plowed but not sowed. A lot of major Southern California cities have been cut by water deliveries by 10%. And there are some cities the cities who rely heavily on water reservoirs have instituted strict limits and laws on water usage. For example, Santa Barbara now they have called water police. They basically patrol neighborhoods, giving citations out to people who are illegally washing their cars or watering their lawns with running hoses. Also, San Francisco, which is in the north, which is typically wetter, has actually made it illegal for residents to fill up their tubs and pools, so you can't go swimming in San Francisco. And in June 2008, Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger declared a statewide drought in California, which is the first time that has ever been declared. And he issued a Central Valley state of emergency proclamation for 9 Central Valley counties to address the water crisis. And just last week, he participated in a 4-day march, California March for Water Rally to draw attention to the water crisis. some problems that are contributing to the water crisis is increased water needs for environmental purposes and regulatory cutbacks on water supplies. One of these would be the federal government has put a lot of restrictions on water deliveries because they're trying to protect fish populations, certain fish species, and also the population growth. And these all contribute to severe problems that are even greater than the ones we had in the early 1990s, which is when we had the last severe drought. So we know that there's a pretty bad drought in California, but why should we conserve? Well, since California is facing water shortages, that means there are short supplies to cities, farms, and businesses. And this isn't going to change anytime soon. There are a lot of job losses in areas that are really impacted by this. Growers are leaving thousands of acres unplanted and are cutting back on growing avocados, tomatoes, melons, and other crops. And since these crops are idle, there's an increased fire risk, and a lot of construction projects are now on hold because they're not guaranteed any water supply. Also, with population growth, even with all these problems, California's population continues to grow. There are currently 35 million people living in California right now, and it is estimated that by 2050, there will be 60 million people, which is almost double the current population. Predicted climate changes will bring in longer and drier droughts in the next few decades, and even though state and local managers are working on long-term solutions to these problems, the only thing that you can really do right now is to conserve water. And Save Our Water is a California water conservation resource. They have a really great website with tips on how to save water. For the home, they listed that when you do the laundry, you should wash a full load and to save water and energy. And they have water-efficient clothes washer. This will save you 16 gallons of water a load. When you're doing the dishes, it's best to have a full load. And they now sell water and energy-efficient dishwashers, which will save 3 to 8 gallons of water a load. In the bathroom, you can install a low-flow shower head, which will save 2.5 gallons of water. And cutting your shower time in half, say 5 minutes instead of 10 minutes, will save 25 gallons of water. If filling a bathtub half or less will save 12 gallons of water. And installing a high-efficiency toilet will save 19 gallons of water per person 8 days. Installing aerator faucets will save 1.9 gallons of water per person a day. And this was my favorite. Simply turning off the faucet while you're brushing your teeth or shaving will save 10 gallons of water a day, which is probably the easiest one on here to do. For landscapes, you should only water your lawn now only once or twice a week when it is needed, and usually in the early morning, late afternoon when temperatures are lower, because it won't evaporate as much. That will save 25 gallons each time. Now, while it's suggested that you should only water your lawn once or twice a week, this summer they're actually going to make it a law. Different counties are going to make it a law that you have to only water your lawn once or twice a week. I wasn't quite sure how they're going to monitor it, but I saw on CBS News that they're going to be monitoring your water bill. And if you don't do that, they're going to be charging your water bill higher. For sprinklers, you should regularly check and adjust them so that they don't spray water on streets, sidewalks, or the house. That will save 12 to 15 gallons of water each time. If you put mulch around trees, mulch is a protective covering of straw. It will prevent the water from evaporating. It will keep the soil moist. And it's actually really good for your trees and plants. It will save 30 to 60 gallons of water each time you water your plants. Now, for cleaning driveways, patios, and sidewalks, I know people like to stand there and blast at their sidewalks. I see it all the time. But we are born with arms and legs, and there's a thing called a broom. If you use a broom, you'll save 8 to 18 gallons of water per minute. When you're washing your car or boat, because I'm sure we all have a boat in here, you should use a bucket, sponge, and a self-closing nozzle on the hose. That will save 8 to 18 gallons of water per minute. You should teach your kids, and little brothers and sisters who have them, that sprinklers aren't toys. In my old neighborhood, I would see kids playing and breaking them all the time, right over them with their bikes. And when they went off, they were just gushing all over the place, and they would spit out in the gutter, all the water. Also, for your pools and spas, you should cover them up so that they don't evaporate. That will save 30 gallons of water per day. So now that we know that the current conditions in California have the drought and several ways to cut back on water, I hope you all go home and help California out and conserve water. Thank you.